Good morning. Welcome to Keystone Precision Instruments TPC Webinar Series. My name is Ken Frunheiser and I will be the moderator today on this webinar. I personally am a licensed land surveyor in Pennsylvania with over 17 years of field experience and office experience ranging from topography surveys, boundary, stakeout, and laser scanning. Today our presenter is going to be Chris Gallardo. I probably butchered his name, and I'll let him pronounce that properly when it's his turn. But he also has many years of field experience, and I'll continue to let him explain his experience. Keystone Precision Instruments has created a webinar series. Today is the first of our series. These webinars will be held the last Tuesday of every month at 9 a.m. These webinars are intended to kind of give everyone a breadth of what is out there. They won't be terribly in depth. For that, we would ask that you contact your local sales rep for more information. So these webinars will tend to be about 45 minutes long, give or take a little bit. What I do invite you to do is down in the bottom of your panel there, you should have a chat box. At any time during the webinar, should you have a question, please feel free to write your question in the chat box. I will log those questions, and at the end we will have a question and answer session. Currently everybody is on mute, so again, that will be the easiest way to ask a question. If I do see multiple questions coming up of the same kind, I will stop Chris and we will address it at that time, but we would like to hold questions to the end. It is much easier in a webinar environment like that. So on to today's webinar, Field to Finish. We're going to describe today how to create a feature code library. Once that library is in the data collector, you will be able to code your features that you're locating in the field so that you can actually see your line work in the field and then bring it into Trimble Business Center to generate line work. So a little bit about Keystone Precision Instruments. Keystone Precision Instruments was founded in 1989. We operate in 14 states. Our headquartered is in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and we sell construction and surveying equipment. But in addition to sales, we also have rentals, repairs, and training of all the equipment that we have. We support every piece of equipment that we sell. What we do, through strong leadership and one of the most talented workforces in the industry, Keystone Precision Instruments has grown into the premier construction and survey equipment consulting company in the Northeast. Our mission is to provide measurement solutions that increase customers' productivity and profitability. Our subject matter experts mesh flawlessly as a team to provide every customer with the solutions, support, and service they need to succeed. Things such as training in these webinar series are things that we will be adding to what we offer to our customers so that they can get the most out of the equipment that they purchase from us. With that said, I'm going to hand it over to Chris to begin the information on our webinar series. Again, should you have any questions during the webinar, please type it into the chat box and I will log them, and we will have a question and answer session once Chris is complete. So at this point, I'm going to change the presenter over to Chris. Okay, Chris, I believe it is yours to take.
Okay. Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Christopher Gallardo, and Ken did a pretty good job when trying to pronounce it. It's a very, very hard name to pronounce. So you see, I have 20 years working with Trimble, GPS, robotics, so pretty much all the Trimble stuff I've been touching since they changed over from geodometer. I've been a party chief for 15 years, different kind, environmental work, the state highway work, pretty much all over the topographic industry. So my agenda today is I'm going to show you how to import into TBC. Most of you, if you're using TBC, you already know this. You can click and drag, or you can import your CSV file or whatever else. We're going to process the data. Going to show you how easy the TBC feature coding works in here. Now, first I'm going to go in, we're going to show you, and then at the end I'm going to go back through and show you how to make a feature definition library in here, show you like 10 codes or so. This here is to get you a little feeling better with TBC, and we'll also show you how you can export a DWG out of TBC into CAD. Now, I don't have CAD on this, but as a surveyor, you know, this is a really good control way for you guys to see all your line work coming in and out of the field. Oh, excuse me. Objective, you'll be able to import a file in TBC, and you'll learn how to process a feature line code. Also on how to export a DWG. Again, the same things on there. Just a little different way to help your surveyor and take down time in the office for him to have ultimate control on what he's seeing and what he's doing in the field. TBC, what is it? It's a new drafting software. Well, not new, it's a drafting software for TBC that helps the surveyor out and for him to pass it off to his AutoCAD department. This is the old way of seeing points come in, and what I'm going to get into in the feature coding and how to make a library and get you all set up in here. So this is how your points would usually come in now, and this is what you're going to see when you bring them in. This is going to be all points and not really put together too well. With TBC, with your feature coding, you'll be able to keep track of things in the field. So as you can see in a little diagram here on the collector, you have your edge of pavements and they're drawing lines. So that way you can see what lines are going on. If you make a mistake in the field, say your edge of pavement 1 is connecting to edge of pavement 2, you can see that quickly and you can change that in there. That way you're not bringing in lines that are crossing or anything of that sort. So you have a lot more control in the field with the feature code library and TBC working together. That'll help you out a lot more. So as you can see, you've collected points out here and you've processed the line work. So you have a whole parking lot, and then you have the points in the middle giving your grade breaks and everything in there. You can import and export DWGs. I'm going to move on through this one. So let me go into the main here and show you TBC. Now, I already have a project brought up in TBC. This is showing you where your points are and where everything is going on in here. So right now, it just looks like your regular old file does when you're bringing it in. Now, like I said, you can click and drag out your collector and bring into here. Which I just did to save time was already bring a JOB file out of your Trimble Access collector in here. So if you want to change your coordinate systems when you're bringing it in, there's a project settings tab up here. You go into that. And right now you go in your coordinate systems. Now, right now it's set to State Plane 83 and Maryland 1900. Now, the reason why it came in like this is there's a job file associated with this. The job file already has this all in here. If you need to change it, you can change the coordinate systems right here. We're not going to do that for this one because I'm already on the state planes I need to be on. But there's also a feature code processing tab down here. You can just click on that. Now, this one already has a code library put in, a global features library. I guess we'll get into the feature library just at the end. We go through this little demo here and I'll show you where that is. That's a separate running software on its own, and we can show you how to make that. So right now it has global features in there. That's what I want. I'm going to click OK. So right now it just has the points. So I'm going to come over here to the survey tab, which is already on. And now I'm going to go to process feature code. Your job will come up. This is the Crofton class. We did this. And I'm going to select source and then process the source. Now you can view your processing report. For this one, I'm not going to view it. So you see there's a couple skew lines in. We can fix those right away. But you can also go to your 3D view and you'll see they're all in the right layers. There's a back of curve here, so you know everything was done right. So this right here will come out as a DWG. And you can take that to CAD and you can do designs off it. Or you can continue to do designs in TBC, which we can continue and do other webinars and get you there. So if you want to change a property on this tree over here, so you can change the size of trees, just right click, properties. You come over and you see in the features, it's a broadleaf tree. The trunk is it's a 1 meter. So you can change that. And when you change all this in here, it'll change it on your screen at the same time. So now my spread, say I want to go up to 8, it changes the property of the tree. So you can still change anything in here that you shot while you're doing that. Let me close that out. So, and if you want to go ahead and take these lines out, you can do the whole segment. So you'll come into your edit tab, and they have delete segments, and you just go ahead and click on the line, and you can just delete it out and just keep deleting until it gets to the point where you want it at, and then click on the other one. Now, instead of your guy spending hours and hours and hours in there drawing and doing all this and paying for a CAD tech, he's just drawing his own job, and it's only taken probably from start to finish, bringing it in about 5 minutes. So he can come through, look at all the lines, make sure everything's operating right, give him his quality control. So you can come through and look. And then when you're ready, if you think that's good enough, you can come to your home tab, you go over to your export, and you go in your CAD. Now you have a DWG exporter. You want to select all the options. You want to name the file. And then very important, you want to know where it's going to go. The default is to go into your documents for Trimble Business Center, and that's where they'll all end up at. That created a DWG. Now, from this right here, you can also create a surface very quickly, and it's not going to be a very clean surface, but you can make a surface really quick right here to export out of CAD, or into CAD, excuse me. So you can come into surfaces, you can create a surface, and we'll just call this one a parking lot. Come out in gray, and I'm just going to select all just for this, and I'm going to hit apply. Now, that's already kind of made your surface there. Got your kind of elevations going. You come back to your plane view, which is your 2D view, and it has your lines. Now, if you want to, you can go ahead and you can start creating contours up here and make quick contours. That's how quick you can get your jobs done in TBC with the surveyor coming in. Now, I know that's a little bit quick, and it might have been a little fast for some people to watch, but that's really how simple it is to create line work. And as long as you have your coded library done, that's how quick you can get your work done to finished, and you can get that out the door and get that over to your CAD department. They can start designing. But like I said, if you want to, you can do all the designing in TBC. It's just what you're familiar with doing there. Now, Ken, I'm gonna probably go ahead and move on up to the feature the libraries, because that's going to take a little bit more time. If there's any questions right here, I could answer anything right now. If there was anything we had, if I went too fast.
No, I thought that was very comprehensive. I did have a couple questions. As an example, that tree that you edited, yes, those points can be edited in the field before they're brought into TBC. Is that correct?
Correct. They can be edited in the field, but if you made a mistake and you didn't catch it until then you can just come right back in. You can edit in the software as well. But yes, you can catch it in the field and make those edits. I just showed with the lines there that just in case you didn't see that you had a one crossing over, that you can still edit fairly easy.
I see. In addition, somebody was asking, so next to that tree, I believe it's a little hard to see, but I believe it's point number 1040. Is that correct?
Yes. Right here?
Yes. Is it possible on the final deliverable to hide that point number so that it's not seen when the plan is
Yes. So over here on the left is your View Filter Manager. And if you look down, I'm coming down past this, and you see right here it says point, and it says show point IDs, and it's highlighted. You just click that off, and then all the points are gone.
Okay, perfect. Someone else had a question. If you could turn the point numbers back on, because I'm not sure where it is now.
Right there?
Yeah, perfect. Next to point number 1032, there's a little, looks like a little piece of paper icon or something like that. What does that denote?
The JPEG. So this here was with your Trimble Access, most of your TSC3 controllers and your new, the SX10 tablet, and I think it's the T10 tablet, all have a camera in them, and you can take a picture of whatever's there so you can have a reference. And it's a media folder, and it should come up with a JPEG, unless this one does not have it in it, which I might not have them in here because it's not loaded one, but that's usually associated with a JPEG, and there's no photo in there on that one. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. But that, if you take a picture with it, that's where it would show up, correct?
Yes. The file. So that right there is a sewer manhole. So there is a picture of sewer manhole, but the pictures did not come through on this older file that I had.
Not a problem. So I have a question from our audience here. Can you have the survey notes come in as a text box? So I believe what the customer is asking there is if you type a note about maybe a property corner or something like that, can you have that set up so when the job is processed that note can be automatically annotated in TBC?
Yeah, you can put them up. You can put your notes in up here and just add them to in your drafting tab or in your edits tab. You can add that note to it, and that'll come out with it in the text.
Okay, so when you process your feature codes, will that note automatically appear, or would you have to manually type that note in?
Right here, if you had it connected with the feature codes, so if that was a code that was already in there with the attributes, they would all come up and you'd have to hide those. So as long as you had, say it was a tree 8-inch and you wanted it to be a cherry and you wanted the attribute cherry to be shown with it, then that would come up in there in your attribute file.
Okay, so maybe if there's some sort of text that you want to be seen, you wouldn't enter it as a quote-unquote note, but you would add it in creation of your feature code library, which we'll be going over here in a second.
Correct.
You would put almost a note tab or a note option as an attribute under a feature that would show up.
Correct.
Perfect. I hope that answers your question. If not, please retype something else and we'll continue the dialogue. I also did have another question before we move on. All your line work, when it comes in, that line work is at its actual elevation based on the point, correct? So it is three-dimensional line work?
Correct. Yes. Right now, everything right here now is a polyline. It's a 3D polyline. Everything that you shoot in there, as soon as it comes out of a line, it's a 3D polyline. So when it's going in, you're in the 3D world.
Perfect. Okay. Now, so when you created your tin mesh here that you have, did it just use the points, or did it use the points and lines to create the tin mesh?
It used the points and the lines to create the tin mesh because it's pulling from the lines as well if you look in there.
Okay. And when you exported your DWG, you have the options to export only line work or only the tin mesh, or you could export everything, correct? So you could select certain objects that are in TBC to export if you only wanted certain things to go. Is that correct?
Correct. You could break it down. We could break it down to what our project explorers, to what we saved as. I'm sorry, over here. So on my left tab. So we can break it down to your points, to what we wanted out of there. You can break it down to the surfaces that we had out, to what you want to export. We can break it down to your scan. So it's just like same with CAD with making sheets. It's just you have a project explorer over here, and right here on this left hand side is where you can import and you can export. So if you wanted to export just points, you click that tab and select points. If you wanted surfaces, you click on the surface and you would say export that surface. So it's very user friendly.
Perfect. Okay, I believe that's all for the questions right now. If you want to continue, oh, hold on, I have another one here. Hang on one second. So can you, under the under the export options, you mentioned a DWG. Do you have an option for a DGN?
Let's see. So in our CAD, we have a DXF, DGNB.
I believe the DGM would probably be under the CAD tab, as it's a CAD format for MicroStation.
Okay, DXF. I don't see a DGM, but I believe we can export right to MicroStation. Let's make sure. I don't see one.
Yeah, it will probably be under the CAD tab. We'll do a little more research on that. But if my memory serves from when I was consulting a few years back, MicroStation would allow the import of a DXF, so that might be a way to get your line work in from this piece of software to the other. So we'll do a little bit more research on that, and we'll post that on our blog later today once we get a firm answer on that. Okay, page through here. Yep, I think we've cleaned up the questions. So if you want to go and show how the creation of a feature code library can happen, showing some of the features and the attributes.
Okay. Yeah, we'll go there. So what you're going to do, your feature definition manager is over here in your start window. So come down on your side, you're going to go into Trimble, come all the way down, depending on if you're using Windows 10 or Windows 8 or whatever one you're using. So Trimble Office is here. Click on that. Now you see this feature definition manager. Go ahead and click on there. Going to open up, and it'll be blank when you open it at first, just like this. So you want to start a new file. Now I want to start one from scratch, so go ahead and start new. So I want to add a new category. Let's call this road. Now I can add a new point to it. New point, we'll call it edge of pavement. Ask me what a layer is. I'll make a new layer called roads. Say okay. Give me a second for it to load up. Now this is where I can add attributes and so if I want to put a number in, call this size. And you can only go from 1 to 40 in here. So now you have a size. So we can add a text. Nope, cannot spell. Names. Optional, and you can say same thing, default value, maximum length, 40 characters in there. This is just building a small library. So if you want to make it lines, they already have line controls in here, and you can add to them. So right here you'll see it says what kind of sequences you want to make. So start a new line joining sequence to the previous joining sequence with the same code in the line joining sequence. So whatever you want to make this, if you want to make it a start a new one or end one. So if you want to start a line, you just say I want to start, and then the code is ST. This is what you want, and now that's made a code. So now you have a line code to start a line. So if I wanted to start edge of pavement 1 start, that would start drawing a line. So you can keep going through and adding more. I can add a ground layer. And call this one ground shot. And I have to make a new layer for it, call it ground. Now as you're going through, like I said, this you're building your libraries. I can build these pretty easily. If you guys need these built for you, I can help you build one, or I can just make it for you and give it to you at a cost, of course. Now if you want to make a line for in here, you would click new and go to line feature, and then we want to do edge woods. So EW, and then put it on the ground layer. And now you've got it. So now you have that. It's going to draw a line. So when you start that line, it's going to start drawing edge woods. As you can see right here, now it's a line. It's not a point. The difference being the ground shot here, if you look down the bottom, it's just a point. So it's always going to be a point. The edge of woods, when you are shooting the edge of woods now, that's always going to be a line. Now it's by layer. If you are using Autodesk or any of the AutoCAD, you can export a DWG or a text file with your points and codes already on there, and you can import that into TBC through the special import here. It's a fixed format. You can do a custom import of a CSV file, and that'll be able to bring your CSV in there and already have that set on the right layers and everything. So this is pretty much how you start creating your files in here. It'll take a long time, but it's a little bit easier than doing in CAD, I believe. Set that one up, and like I said, you can put these on whatever layers you want. It's pretty easy to work with. So like I said, now you have a white line in the points. Okay, that was still a line there. And that's pretty much all with your feature definition library there. I mean, you can go down and you can just keep, like I said, you can keep right clicking and making new categories, and you can keep doing point manager or line definitions. You can do polygons, you can do block features, you can do a lot with that. So it just depends on how you want to make your categories up and what you want it to be in there. And that's pretty much it for the feature definition manager. Ken, is there anything you need me to touch on in here that I'm kind of breezing over with?
Yeah, I was wondering if you could do maybe a tree, and so that you could show how you could attach a symbol to it, and then maybe show the type of tree, evergreen, oak, whatever, and then associate the size with it, similar to the example how you showed back in your TBC portion of the demo.
Okay, let me put that in here. Oh, a tree, put that on the ground. Let's see if they got a nice little tree in here. And of course I don't have a tree in here. There we go. So we'll put this tree in here for tree 1. So here's your tree down the bottom for the lines and symbols over here. So we'll say it's a tree. Now we can go cherry. I cannot spell. So yeah, there you can add your defaults there. You can have a couple more in there, or you can just put default, or you can put as many as you want in there, in your list in there. let me go in here to, so if you want this, like I said, the size of the tree, you can put size and description, trunk, default value 1, you know, minimum size being 0.1 and the maximum being of 40. So now you can put in an old diameter of the tree to what it was, like I showed you back in the TBC, which I can scroll back to it. Once those two attributes are in there, so now you have a tree, the type, and now you have a size. So from also, you can also go ahead and make the trunk size bigger and smaller, and also you can put out the spread. So this all is going to be attribute filled here, depending on where you're putting that width, if that makes sense. Is that what you're looking for, Ken, with that there?
Yeah, no, that's good. So as an example, your size, you have 1 in there. Is that 1 inch? Is that 1 U.S. survey foot? Is that dependent on the drawing settings? What type of units is that?
That's depending on, so it's depending on the trunk size. So the 1.0 on there is depending on what you have set up on the collector. So you could have 1 equal 1 inch, or 1 could equal 1 foot, depending on what the parameters were set in there. I think mine right here, 1 is set to 10 inches.
Okay.
So you can have it set in your attributes on where you wanted to start it, because I do know that, you know, some trees that are under 10 inches aren't located the same way, and then ones after 10 are. It's just what you guys and what their standards are for what they want, and it's all set up to there. So if you look down on my corner down here on the screen where it says 0.1 meter is what mine is referenced to. So I'm at 3 inches is what my default 1 is.
I see. Perfect. So getting back a little bit to maybe your edge of woods or the excuse me, the edge of pavement. Could you maybe talk a little bit more about what other options you have besides drawing lines? As an example, I know you can join 2 lines together, things like that. I was wondering if you could just briefly talk about what line options you have and what controls you have in the field as you're creating these feature codes.
I'll pull these up right here so that way we can look right at it. So, you know, you can connect to a line that's already going. Like I said, we previously joined the sequential with the same code. So if you started an edge of pavement 1 and you started going down and you started running a back of curb, you know, do you think, is your line going to follow over? No, because your edge of pavement 1 is edge of pavement 1, and you start at edge of pavement 2 and you're worried it's going there. It's not, because of the line work and you have the right coding in there for it. When you end the line, you're going to say, I'm going to end it here. So what you were saying is you want to join to generally in a point name. So say I went down and I just wanted to make break lines on my ground shots. Well, so ground shot 1, I wanted to connect to ground shot 100. So I would have that, you know, I can make this code whatever I wanted. So if I wanted it to be JS, you know, now it's JS. Anytime I put JS on the code, ground shot is going to link up and joins to this name for anything that I put it with. So if I went and said I want my edge of woods to line up with my edge of pavement, so now I put JS in edge of pavement 1, JS to edge of woods, and that's how it's going to link in there. You know, the ignore any joining operations. I could put whatever code I want in there, and I say, okay, I don't want you to join my edge of pavement 1 because there's a depressed curb in there, and I don't want it to be up as high. I want it to stay down low, so I don't want you to join there. You could do that in there. You know, your closed line, you can have it closed line. So if you went around and 0.100 is 0.200, you can just have it just close all the way through, and it'll go all the way through there. Your PTs and your PCs, you know, you start a tangent arc, so your PC, you just put that code in there however you want. I mean, some people don't have PC, some people probably just have a C. I don't know. I've only worked for a couple companies through my years, which is probably pretty good, that they only had PC, POC, and PT. So that would be your PC, and then you're in the tangent and PT. You know, however code you want to put in. POC, I never use some of these in here, but these are all the codes that you can put whatever you want with if they make sense to what you're using. You can have your offset codes and whatever you want to do. Now, So that's pretty much about the coding. Is that what you were going in with the control codes, Ken? You just go through more of those because that's about where they can get with those.
Right. So it seems to me with a little bit of planning and an upfront creation of a proper data dictionary, you can all but draft your entire project in the field before it even hits the office. Because I see you can join two lines together, you can draw arcs, you can draw if you have maybe a piece of paving that is not it doesn't have a 10-foot radius, but it's just a sweeping arc. You can do a smooth curve. You could actually look at down at the bottom. It looks like you have options for horizontal and vertical offset. So if you're locating a piece of sidewalk, you can simply locate one side of the sidewalk and have it offset 4 feet to represent the other side. So you can, with a little bit of planning of creating this data dictionary, this feature code library, and proper field techniques, you could draft an entire project. I'd say maybe 90% or so complete in the field before it even hits the drafter's desk. Is that something you would agree with?
Yeah. Yes. If you sat down and did careful planning and did your best, you would be about 90% complete from field to bringing it in. That's where you would be at.
Perfect. Is there any limit to how many attributes you can have per feature code?
I don't think so. I haven't found out. I could find out the answer to that if anyone. I've just did the state highway and I've put up to 8 attributes on one code. So I haven't found the limit for it yet, but I can find out if there is one.
Okay. I have a question that just came in. Can you do a template code shots? As an example, if you would shoot the bottom of curb, could it also draw the top back of curb and the sidewalk and the front and back of sidewalk by just taking one shot? So I would interpolate that to be, can you do multi-codes from one shot? So if you took, as he's saying, if you took a gutter shot, could you start a line and offset a line and maybe potentially do multiple offsets from taking that one gutter shot? Or
I have not tried that, and that is something awesome that should probably be tried out. I'll have to get back and put that answer up on the blog. I'll go try that today. So I'll go shoot a back of a curb, and I'll offset the top and offset the gutter pan and see if that gives me a vertical and a horizontal offset line. That'd be very quick and very useful for a surveyor. I haven't thought of that.
Yeah. So, James, if you could maybe check our blog later this afternoon or tomorrow morning, we'll have an answer up there for you on that. What I would say is that there, I think is probably possible. My only concern would be is if you're shooting the gutter, you have probably a 6 or an 8-inch reveal of the gutter to do a vertical offset and then moving it back. Because remember, when you take a shot, it's a 3-dimensional shot, both horizontally and vertically. So there may be, I could see a benefit, maybe top of curb, back of curb, and then a sidewalk if they're roughly the same elevation. But for that one shot, you would hold that vertically, so you'd have to also do a vertical offset. But
you might be a little bit lower.
Right, so that might be something to think about. But yes, Chris, if you could do that, that would be fantastic. James, if we didn't completely answer your question there, please feel free to type in and we'll continue the conversation. That's a great question. How would the code look in your data collector? So if you're typing in a code, as you mentioned there, the edge of pavement, where you want it to begin. So would the code in the data collector look EPMT space ST for start? Would the start go before the code, after the code? Where does that need to happen in the data collector for this to work properly?
So if you place in here EMP, so you would say, I'm just going to use my cursor here as the mark here. So this is where your code's coming in, the EPMT. And now, to get to start, you would space ST. So space ST, and that would get the code to start.
Okay.
That would get it to draw. Now, if you're going to make it edge of pavement 1 or whatever else, you put your 1, and then your space ST. So edge of pavement 1 would start then. And that's how you would do that.
Okay. And so you would number your edge of pavements as you showed there. So you would have edge of pavement 1 would be one side of the road, and then so that the software doesn't get confused between one side of the road and the other, you would name that second one 2.
Correct.
So would the 2 would be a 2 would be edge of pavement space 2, or would it be all congruent and then space ST?
Right. Just keep it running together like that. So 2 and then space ST.
Perfect. So once these codes are imported into the feature code library in your data collector, you simply use these predefined codes, and the line work will show up both in the data collector and in CAD. I think that's a pretty useful tool, especially out in the field. From someone that has used field to finish in the past, I would recommend that you start maybe slowly, maybe just start with some brake lines, tops and bottoms of banks, maybe just some edge of pavements, and continue working up. I found that the first project I did with this process, if I started and tried to draft the entire project right away, it was a little overwhelming. So I started a little slower by maybe just doing some simpler features, and it all saves time in the end, and you create a better deliverable because the person that was in the field knows exactly how it looked, and they can QA/QC that, if you will, on your data collector before it even hits the drafter's desk.
Yeah, I found that better when I did. I'm sorry, Ken. I found that better when I was doing this. Now I was surveying environmental and doing ponds, and trying a tin mesh in AutoCAD was getting a little bit convoluted for a surveyor because you're out in the field all day at 8-10 hours of work, and you just want to come in and touch and go and just look at your stuff. So in the field, look at this just from my aspect of working from it in the field, of see everything in the collector and have ultimate job control there, and then being able to come back in, instead of me, an hour, 2 hours and getting it in. I just took a 10 to 15 minutes of sitting down at the computer and quality controlling it, and from this to export to one of our CAD that was going to use it in Autodesk and do all the design. This was a time saver for our company, and instead of me being in the office for a total of 6 hours a week, I was in the office for about 45 minutes on 5 days, which every surveyor will agree, the more time you're in the office, the less time you're outside and the less money you're making. So this definitely was something that turned the corner for me.
That is great. That is good stuff. Okay, well, we're up at about our 45 minutes here. If anyone has any questions, please type them in now. I'm going to steal the screen from you, Chris.
Yep.
Okay. Can you see my screen, Chris?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. So as we mentioned, if you have any questions, please feel to reach out afterwards. We will put a couple answers to the questions on our blog later today. But in addition, if you would like to try this field to finish, Chris has prepared a small feature code library. It has about 10 features in it, some pavement, maybe a tree symbol, some curbing. If you would like to try that, we have a pre-created feature code library. Simply email me at kfronheiser, that's KFRONHEISER @keypre.com. We will email you that feature code library and give you some assistance in putting it in your data collector, and you can head to the field with it and give it a shot. Chris will be there to help you step through those steps as well. So again, this webinar is recorded, so if you'd like to share this with some of your coworkers at a later time, this will also be able to be found on our blog. And with that, I wish everyone a good day and hope to see you the end of November, the last Tuesday in November, for our next webinar. Have a great day, everybody.